Kris Krohn here today on Limitless TV, and today, guess what? It's Q&A time. You've been asking questions, and in real estate, you deserve the answers. Here they come. All right, a fantastic lineup of questions that many of you are responding to from our videos and knowing now that we do these Q&A sessions. So I'm super excited. This first one comes from Myra Johnson. She says, when you use partners, do you co-sign on the mortgage? Do they apply for the loan by themselves? I wanted to do this, but I'm trying to figure out how I get added to the deed. I wasn't sure if the mortgage company will call the loan due if you change the deed after the purchase. Thank you. Okay, Myra, this is a fantastic question. First of all, let's talk about co-signing for a second. Co-signing is a very formal process. This is where the bank is actually going to add you to the deed and to the mortgage and the person that's helping you qualify. If I were co-signing, it would mean that I can't qualify on my own, so I'm going to bring somebody else in. In a not very different or strange way, if you're married, if you and your spouse are both working, you can both work together to qualify. We don't consider that really co-signing, but that's really what it is. And so it's bringing in someone else that has ability. This will add you to the mortgage, this will add you to the deed, and then you'll officially be in on the deal. And all you need to do is talk to a loan officer, Myra, and figure out what you qualify for compared to what you want, and then bring in someone else and then have that loan officer work on qualifying the both of you together to see what you can now qualify for. And that's how you know if you're qualified to do something and sign it and do it as a co-sign. Fantastic question. Noble Anpu. Noble, when you say basement apartment, does that mean the basement has its own bathroom and kitchen? Yes, I absolutely mean that. When we're talking about a home with a separate mother-in-law living apartment, be thinking a little bit more along the lines of a duplex, which is, it really is its own separate living unit. It has a separate entrance, bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, living area. That's what we mean when we're talking about a basement apartment, not just, hey, I had a roommate that came and rent a room for me. Great question. KSO Flyoneer. Isn't your net worth actually less than $200,000 since you still owe money for the loans from purchasing each of those homes? Or am I missing something here? Okay, this is probably in reference to one of the videos that we shot. And when you're looking at your net worth, you've got to subtract out the mortgages. So just to give you a real basic concept here, if I bought a house for $100,000 and if I owe $50,000 on it because I put $50,000 down, I would only owe $50,000. That means that even though I have a bank loan for $50,000, I have $50,000 of equity because I paid it down. That's part of my net worth. Or if I bought a house for $50,000 that was worth $100,000, I like that scenario a little better, then I might owe a bank $50,000, but that equity of what I owe versus what it's worth, that amount is actually what the net worth is. Great question. Aubrey Johnson, where did you meet your mentor? You know, it's kind of a funny thing. When my wife and I first got married, in our church runs by thinking that everyone should have a calling, meaning everyone gets to have a job of what they can do to help each other in the church. It's a nice community option. And we had such a big ward that they really didn't have anything for my wife and I. So we were newly married and they made one of these callings up. They said, you know what you should do? We want you guys to go and check out this newly married course and just go take that course. And I thought, that's a strange way to serve other people by taking a marriage improvement course. Well, we took this course and they had a guest lecture on the 5th lesson on money. And this is where I met my first of 3 mentors who had made multi-million dollars. And you know, it was interesting. He had a different energy about him as he was teaching about budgeting and finance. And I didn't even know, I was so young, I didn't know the word abundance at the time. But there was this abundant energy about him, this attitude of you can do anything that you want. And when the course was after, I approached him. I said, Ben, what do you do for a living? And he said, oh, I just got back from traveling in Asia the last 5 months. I said, you have a job that takes you to Asia? He says, oh, no, I don't work. What do you mean you don't work? Oh, I haven't been working for several years. My real estate pays for everything. And that's when I caught the real estate bug, which was just this interesting idea of where did I meet my mentor? I met him at a marriage improvement course. And then after that, I actually hounded the guy down. Some of you are doing that to me, and keep it up. My first mentor, he wouldn't give me his contact information. I somehow looked him up in the yellow pages. I found his home. I drove out. I knocked on his door. He had this very irritated look when I came to his door. And that's happened to me many times. This is how I know when people are really serious and they're really serious about getting a mentor. If you're entertaining mentorship, that's something that I provide. And in the link below, you can request some more information on what working together could look like. All right, we've got Coasty 1990. If you continue to buy new houses with equity lines of credit, how long does it take to pay them off? This is a fantastic question. I am almost never trying to pay off real estate through paying down a mortgage. I'll generally hold a home for 5 or 10 years. Why? Because it dilapidates with time, and then I have to put in more money, and then you have to reinvest into it. And having a 30-year mortgage, or I'll start with a 30-year mortgage and paying it down. That's a 30-year plan. That's a little long for me. I mean, I'm 37 years old. That's 30 more years is just a lot. And then you've got this idea of, well, what about a 15-year mortgage so I can pay it off faster? Sometimes that eliminates all the cash flow, and then you got to throw extra money in on top. So even though you're paying it down faster, it may not be sustainable if you get yourself in a pinch and it's like a bill saying, give me more money. So generally, instead, I try to buy a home with equity, with great cash flow. I'm going to control it for a period of time. And how do I pay it off? I sell it. That's a great way to get everything all paid off. And then there's a pile of money left over that you can do what? Put it into the next property. Excellent, excellent. Okay, Jonathan Fuentes. Great videos, few questions. So for each house, you got a bank loan. And that's the first question. And the answer is usually yes. If so, does that mean that you're getting into more debt? Oh, Jonathan, you got to watch the video on good debt and bad debt. I love business debt. I love investor debt. Yes, it means that if I buy one house and I have a $100,000 loan and it's worth $130,000 and I'm making $300 a month cash flow, that means that I'm able to take the rent and pay down the mortgage, get $300 left over. I might do that for 5 years, sell it, make $50,000 selling it, plus that $300 a month cash flow in the months that I collected that. In other words, I did have debt, I controlled it for a period of time, and then I let go of it, and I was left with more. Now that can be risky if you don't get a good deal. That can be risky if you don't know what you're doing. That's definitely risky if you don't have cash flow. So if I have one house that's working as a good debt because it's making me money, let me ask you, Jonathan, how many of those homes would you want? I hope a lot, right? More homes, more cash flow, more freedom. And yes, it is more debt, but it is a good debt because it is paying you and it's giving you something, as opposed to a consumer debt that is taking from you and costing you every month. Okay, you also say, but since you had a basement to rent, were you able to manage it correct? Well, the first house that I bought did have a basement apartment, and that meant an extra $500 a month. And for me, that was a really big deal. How do you know when a house is a good price to buy? Jonathan, you got a lot of really good questions. I got a video on this one, I think, but here's the short of it for you. How do you know if a home is a good price? I start with a sniff check, which is in my area, things are selling for a typical price per square foot around the median. In my area, it's $100 a foot. So all of a sudden, let's say I look at 100 homes and 100 a foot, 100 a foot, 98 a foot, 102 a foot, 60 a foot. What? Whoa, that's an anomaly. That's really different. It's really lower than the rest of them. Why is that? And that's a home that I'm going to do research on, and boom, I found it. You can go to your local classifieds, you can talk to realtors, all sorts of ways to find deals and confirm whether they're good deals or not. Eventually, it's going to turn into a CMA, a market analysis, comparing other homes in the areas, and you can watch a video on that as well. But that's ultimately what I do, is my sniff check to even know if I'm looking potentially at a good deal. Last question. Do you look at surrounding houses and get the value from looking at them? Yeah, I don't really drive around. That is where I am doing that comparable market analysis. And you got to make sure you're comparing apples and apples, meaning very, very similar homes, and comparing a home that, let's just say, is built within the same 5-year time span. The home was the same square footage, the same garage capacity, the same bedrooms and bathrooms, and it sold last month for $130,000, and this one looks very similar that I can get for $100,000. Then yeah, you need to do more research, because you might be looking at a fantastic deal to sink your teeth into. Jonathan, great questions. Thank you. Last question of the day. Valiant A says, what do you mean by renting out your basement? What if the house doesn't have a basement? And would you recommend apartments or just houses? And when you're getting started, Stick with houses. A basement apartment, it usually doesn't mean that there's multiple units. It just means that there's a bonus unit. There's a lot of areas that don't have basements and some do. And what people will do is they'll designate a part of the house where maybe you come in through a back door and it has kind of a walled off area that has its own kitchen. It has its own bathroom. It has its own 2 bedrooms. Well, that's a separate part of the house, kind of like a built-in apartment that you can rent out and collect money on while living on the other side. So that's specifically what we're representing Valiant A. I want to do one more question. This one is from Mebiad Mega. Mebiad Mega says, what I don't understand there is how you buy when the market is down. It will be a big plus for you. And if the market goes up, which can happen very fast, do you still invest? And the answer is yes. When the market goes down, that is when I am buying like crazy. When the market goes up, that's when I'm selling like crazy. Consumers do the opposite. Average everyday citizens, the opposite. For investors, when everyone is buying, they're selling. And when everybody's selling, they're what? They're buying. So investors tend to move counter-cyclically, and there's always good deals to act on. Fantastic question. Appreciate it, Mega. Thank you for asking all of those amazing questions. Please keep them coming. And if you have a chance, I would love to meet you in person. You got to get on our calendar and check out some of the incredible events that we have coming up. We do them on a monthly basis, and we're going to be chatting about real estate and exactly what you can do to take your next action step to be an investor in real estate. So thanks for joining us. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the spark in a relationship. How do you keep it alive? How do you keep it burning bright and brighter and brighter and brighter? And how do you fan that thing and just blow it up in a ball of yummy goodness? Well, that's coming your way tomorrow.